Jimmy Mac's was a classy place.
It was a vibrant, living hub of the jazz scene in Portland.
It was the place.
Where friends meet and people remain friends.
Yeah, it's a place where lifelong friendships are born.
Jimmy Mac's was a culture, man. It was a cultural institution.
It was the place where the best music in town was.
All the musicians used to come down and hang there.
It was a milestone.
I would go down there and hang out with JD and Lisa and see friends come in. So it was like a home for musicians.
It was a dream. I mean, it was a nightclub built around music.
If you were a Portland act, you knew you kind of made it if you got to book Jimmy Mac's. And you really knew you made it if you got to book it again.
Where I would play with the best musicians in the Northwest for great audiences with the nicest staff.
Clientele was nice. The service was great. They had good waiters and waitresses, you know, very friendly.
Where can I go hear some live music? Concierge says, Jimmy Mac's. Taxi driver says, Jimmy Mac's.
It was classy. You know, the red velvet background.
I think it's the red velvet curtains, actually. I think that's what really does it.
With a wonderful owner who supported music and supported musicians.
It wasn't a nightclub, it was a home. It was like an extended family.
We'd meet people from all over the world. That was what was really nice. And we'd sometimes invite them to sit with us and, you know, just have fun. I mean, it was really crazy in that corner, let me tell you.
And if it's the second set and you can't come in because you're too young, you stand outside and look through the glass.
It's an incredibly rare thing, and I am incredibly blessed and thankful to have been a part of it.
And great music.
Yeah, great music.
The musical Camelot. You know, there once was this magical place.
It was the place. Nowhere else but Jimmy's.
Jimmy came to me. I was playing at Atwater's with Leroy Vinegar, and he came up with JD and Lisa, and he was saying, we want to start a music thing down at the club. So I got together with he and JD and went to the downstairs basement bar that they had, and we talked about a few things. And then there was a tune that came on the jukebox. I think it was by Booker T and the MGs, called The Pygmy. And he said, man, this tune is pretty cool. And I said, yeah, I wrote the tune. And they looked at me like, you got to be, are you full of shit? What is it? And then I proved to them that the tune by Booker T and the MGs was the tune that I had recorded back in 1964, 65. You know, so I told Jimmy, I said, well, let's give it a try. And he said, I'll go for it. And I said, well, give me a couple of weeks, let people know I'm back home. And I think we'll get a nice crowd. And after a couple of weeks, then you couldn't get in the door.
I remember talking a lot about the club going in. And it's like, there's a new club going in up on 10th. I'm like, up on 10th? That's the worst idea in the world. Who thought of that?
Having a club is like almost a suicide mission. You know, you got to have something wrong with you.
You know, I was there, for 20 years. Almost every Tuesday night for 20 years. I'd say 85% or 88% of all the Tuesday nights for 20 years. So that's a long gig in the jazz world.
One of the first nights we played there, Thera Memory got on the microphone and told the audience, we're going to be here for the next 10 years, every Thursday night. And, you know, everyone laughed and, like that's going to happen. So it ended up being 20 years and dream come true.
He hired me Monday nights, many years ago, and it allowed me to present my music every week. And so if I wrote a new song, it would immediately get to a new audience.
First 2, maybe even 3 Thursdays, there were very few customers. And Jimmy would be sitting at the door. And at some point I asked him, are you concerned or something? And he said, oh, I'm not concerned at all. He said, I know the people are going to come. And that's incredible. I mean, I've worked in a lot of nightclubs for a lot of club owners, and any other club owner would have panicked and fired us by that time.
Every place I've ever played has either stopped having jazz or fired me. And that's true of every musician in Portland. And I told Jimmy, the fact that you've kept me from one club to the other and you plan to keep me to the next club, I said, that is unheard of.
When I play with Mel Brown, it was like you have to bring it with all your energy and all your passion, and you have to concentrate, and it really would demand technical facility from me. And, you know, that was great. It was the best thing for my chops as a pianist.
Playing that club, I mean, I had the opportunity of playing with Alex Acuna, Azar Lawrence, Luis Conte, Oreste Vilato, Carla Harris. And those were major highlights in my life. I'm forever grateful to him for that.
You know, my name was kind of spread around the country a little bit, so it made it easier for him to bring in people from out of town to come to Portland and play, and they didn't have to bring the whole group. You know, that made it kind of nice. So when guys come from New York, hey, I played with this guy named Mel Brown that used to be at Motown, and they're back in New York, and people are saying, oh, yeah, I remember seeing him at the Apollo Theater. That's great. Well, how did you do it? They said, well, because of this club called Jimmy Mac's in Portland. So Jimmy opened the door for those kind of things to happen.
I kind of look at myself as the rock guy of Jimmy Mac's. And when he gave us the opportunity to play on the weekends, one of the schemes that I was always, you know, perpetrating was, how do I get as many women into this club as I possibly can? He wanted to have bigger audiences on the weekends, and we do that by creating dance music. But then he also created this infrastructure that was absolutely fabulous for putting on a show. Lots of headroom, a big stage, and just a friendly atmosphere, period.
Back to Kingston when I was 19, you know, you sort of move, you bring your amp in and you kind of move the table out of, excuse me, ma'am, you know, we're going to start the music here in a minute. You know, I hope it won't be too loud for you, you know, ladies, you know, if you're having, you know, conversation, you know, Jimmy Mac's, it was all oriented towards the band. You know, there's the stage. That's what everything is facing. The band is on the stage. We're here to hear the music. Even if you're not here to hear the music, you're going to hear the music.
And he said, okay, business 101. You have to get this many people in, this many covers, otherwise you'll never work here. But he was that strict about, okay, we have to make a profit this night, and I don't care really. Okay, we can meet your release party, we can do that, but you know, you're gonna get this many people in the door, and we did.
We had that brotherly thing. He was like a big brother I never had, so he taught me a lot of things about the business side. And I just started taking things into account. You know, he taught me just how to be a person that whenever you make a decision, it's a decision you should stay by.
Many of our friends were sick with cancer, leukemia, and when we were looking for a venue to have these fundraisers, we approached Jimmy, and he was very, very supportive and opened his doors.
Even if musicians that have health insurance often have no safety net to cover their lost earnings while they're sick. So that was the goal of the benefits, and Jimmy was fantastic in supporting them and the staff. One of the most memorable moments, I think, at Jimmy Mac's was during that Love for Linda benefit when LaRonda was singing Natural Woman, and we had Bernard Purdy, Aretha Franklin's drummer, up there sitting in playing the song, and no one could play Natural Woman like Bernard Purdy could. And then, unbeknownst to us, Linda who was very sick, but she had a cordless mic, and she came out of the audience singing, and it suddenly became a duet between her and LaRonda. And LaRonda was shocked, we were shocked, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I mean, it was just an amazing moment. And JD says that afterwards, Bernard came to the bar and said that he played that song hundreds and hundreds of times, and it had never been like that.
I suggested we do a steady monthly gig with my Music Academy students. And he was like, yeah, great. He always wanted to have young people in there, but he made it so that kids could come in for the first sets, and that was widely known. Young people have to have a place to play. There's plenty of gig opportunities for young people right now. They do a great job of going out and creating their own. But it's a big difference playing a small gig somewhere for your dad's company, you know, party, and playing on the stage at Jimmy Mac's. And so for Jimmy to create that environment where there's an opportunity for kids to play at a club that is written about in Downbeat at a club that is unquestionably the coolest jazz club around. That's a whole different affair. And that kind of experience, that kind of education is not only irreplaceable in a person's musical evolution, but you have to have a club that represents that in order to get that experience. So Jimmy provided both those services.
And I would email Jimmy and I would say, thank you for keeping my music alive. Because of you, my songs matter. My songs get heard.
I had tremendous respect for the guy. He's very stern, but fair.
I think that Jimmy Makarounis deserves a medal or an award or some kind of commemoration because he has done more for the jazz and rhythm and blues scene in Oregon than any other human being.
No matter how much of a team we were, I really think the proper verbiage for that is family.
It was like a family. 4 generations of my family went there. The camaraderie over 20 years, it's something that you'll keep for the rest of your life.
It was definitely family. It was chaotic and really, hectic, and we all worked together and had a great time.
And as Jimmy would say, your family, you have disagreements, but at the end of the day, you do understand that you love and respect each other.
It's very unusual to have, in the service industry, in the restaurant business, people that have worked together for one person 19 years and servers for 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years.
In the beginning, having the whole family there was really important, just getting the business established. So there was Adele, Jim's mom, Chris, his dad, and Chrissy and Andy, and then myself and Jim. We were down there, 8 or 9 a.m. until about 2 a.m. So they were long days. I worked there until I got knocked up.
I know at least for Christos and I, Mel Brown was always kind of like a third grandpa. We would go down and we'd watch his shows sometimes, and before his shows, I remember we'd always go up on the stage and sit on his lap and give him a hug.
My dad used to coach. I think he enjoyed it. He liked making little kids run. He was a tough coach. A lot of the words coming out of his mouth were very loud. So he was, it was encouragement, but it was loud encouragement at us. Everyone liked him though. The parents liked him. He really wanted to help everyone to succeed.
Lisa and JD were like the glue of that club.
Jimmy used to say, managing is an action word. It's a verb, Lisa, so let's see you manage. Over and over again, driving the point home that managing is an action word, it's a verb. Now, go manage, go handle your staff. See you later.
I was originally hired as a busser, and then I was gone for...
Stoner busser, I understand.
So high.
Yeah.
So
I yelled
high
at him
right
a lot.
now. Yeah,
Hey,
super high.
what are you doing?
Yeah. But it was super easy because I was go get the ice. Okay, you know what I mean? Come on. You know what I mean? You could be high as a kite and do that well.
Maintenance. Duct tape, Leatherman tool, and WD-40. Duct tape so much to the point that we ended up calling it Greek chrome.
We never had enough spoons or silverware
dude.
or what? Oh, we had 1 bottle of Jim Beam. What? Well,
Yeah, why
it
would
goes
you have
ba-
one bottle of
just
anything?
running out of stuff that doesn't go bad. In the middle of a rush, we'd literally be like, oh, who's got the spoons? I need
Yeah,
2
who
spoons
has
for
a
this.
spoon?
And literally would have to go around
Dude.
to tables, grab them off table. Oh, sir, are you done with that?
Yeah,
Thanks.
boom. The busser
Run 'em
is
back to the
running around
dishwasher.
trying to find a fucking
Ridiculous.
spoon.
He wanted us to sell fancy bottles of wine, but we would
had,
only
2.
have 2. So we'd get someone who actually wanted to drink
Yeah, and
it,
they're
it'd be
partying,
gone.
they're
That's
drinking.
it.
And he's like, oh, I'll have another bottle of this awesome $70 bottle of wine. It's like, nope.
All right,
Nope.
that's it.
Anybody that ever went into Jimmy Mac's would look at the back bar, and there was always 1 bottle of everything, never, ever, hardly ever 2 or 3. And we would literally do inventory, if you will, every night
Every
because
single night.
his whole adage is money in, money out. I don't need
Every
money.
every one of those bottles is a $20 bill.
Exactly, or more.
Yeah.
And so it just became part of our routine. And finally, it's like, well, it all makes sense.
It made perfectly good sense.
Oh, we are, here we've been for 20 years.
Yeah,
You know?
I
And
mean
so,
that mentality and that being a fiscal conservative really served us well. Sorry, I'm laughing because if Jimmy was sitting here right now, he'd be laughing too.
laughing very hard.
You'd be laughing very hard. I love that man like a brother, but as many people can be, but it was particularly for him, he could be a real asshole.
Jimmy could be an asshole if he thought that you weren't investing in your ownership of his business.
Jimmy, he had a background in sales, right? And he at one point he'd done cold calling, and if he had a minute to listen to somebody, he would give them, because he's like, I used to do this. All right, give me your pitch. And if they were good, he'd probably buy something from them, or at least give them the time of day, or say, I can do this or I can't do this. But if they came to him and these guys weren't prepared, oh my God, he could be the biggest asshole in the world. And they earned it.
Get out.
Just get out. Exactly.
Yeah, he ran a tight ship and had really high standards, which I think working under that for so long has actually followed me into
setting a standard that
like I work circles around people now, kind of wherever I go, and I owe a lot of that to Jimmy. Yeah,
WWJD stands for What Would Jimmy Do?
Yeah.
I know he's in heaven. He's laughing right now because he's like, yes, I could be.
I feel like everyone who knows my dad or who knew my dad knows that like he had this face when he was annoyed with you, or when he just had it, he'd get this face and it would just lose all expression. Yeah, we called it the look. It was kind of like a...
Oh, I didn't see it, but I understand it was like kind of like that mama look.
or when he would just look at you and go like this. That was when you knew you messed up.
Oh man, it's those eyes, man. It's those murder eyeballs. It was crazy.
Even sometimes when he was smiling
he'd
at
be like
you.
smiling at you, but he'd just be like, you had no idea what this dude was gonna do. He was a really good guy, but like, man, I swear, like, when he was telling me to put that knife down, man, it was like, put the knife down, man.
Yeah.
like he was gonna. I don't know what was gonna happen if I didn't put that knife down, so I put that fucking thing down.
Jimmy had our back. He did not want people treating us a certain way. He didn't want people acting like assholes, and ruining other people's time. So we could stand up to people.
He was the first boss I ever worked for that said, the customer is not always right. And sometimes, you guys, they are not right. And if they're not right, then we'll go ahead and I've got your back on it.
He didn't want you to fail. And he would try any way he could to help you to succeed.
He gave really good advice. Whatever advice he would give you was always really well thought out, and he would take the time to kind of talk through it with you.
I went through the death of my father at Jimmy Mac's, and then Jimmy went through the death of his father. And in a way it bonded us, but in another way, he made sure that I felt fully supported in taking as much time as I needed off and spending the extra time with my kids. But my first night of training at my new job, who is sitting in the middle of the dang restaurant watching my whole first night of training? Jimmy Mac.
I think about him, and I think that the voice that goes into my mind a lot lately after he passed is prioritize. So, like, make sure that you're putting things in order, because you get caught up in life, and the little things will keep you really busy, but they're not the important things. So the PSU Music Scholarship in Jim's name is a great tribute to him. I'm just so amazed that all of this is coming together. Honored to be a part of it and to have his name attached to that. I think he would be so proud, and it was really, really important to him to keep music alive in Portland, and it was important to him to encourage young musicians through their journey to come and play with the young bands from junior highs to high schools, all the way through college and students. And he just loved the local music scene. And I think he would be honored to be a part of that.
And so Jimmy's standing behind the post, and this guy walks up. The guy was kind of a jerk, and he's like, yeah, I'm an old frat bro at Jimmy's, and so, you know, blah, 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 and I want a Long Island, and don't be skipping, and it better be top shelf, and da-da-da, and you just charge me for the regular, because, you know, I'm a friend of Jimmy's. And so Jimmy pops his head around, you know, hey, bud, how do you know Jimmy? And he goes, oh, we went to school together. And he goes, really? And then scoots the ashtray and puts it out, and he goes, well, you know, as a friend of Jimmy's myself, I can tell you that Jimmy would no way want you talking to his staff that way. I can tell you that Jimmy would rather slap you in the face than give you a top shelf drink for bottom shelf prices. And I can tell you, there's the door, you better start heading for it. And the guy was like, blah, 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 and he goes, oh, by the way, I'm Jimmy Mack. Who the fuck are you? The guy left. And then I looked at him and said, so is this one of those times when the customer's not always right? And he said, yep, this is one of those times.
When I think of him, I think of his like his little shrug he did.
Yeah.
Or his, like.
Yeah. Or a little bit harder.
Yeah, it was louder than that.
He's just the greatest guy.
Yeah.
My dad was awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
Jim was awesome.